everyone. So this office session will be basically divided into the first part. I will present kind of the global MPI methodology and the 2014 result. We already have the 2015 result, but it's not yet published, so it will be published just in 2 weeks on 22nd of June. So, but at least I will show you, give an overview of the kind of analysis that we're doing with the global MPI and what you can expect from the 2015 update. And then Professor Foster will present or give an overview of the upcoming OFI book on all of the story and the MPI methodology. So we've been discussing since yesterday about national application of MPI and how, the different kind of application we can have with the AF methodology. So now I will also briefly mention the first application of the first application of the AF methodology, which is the global MPI published by the UNDP Human Development Report Office and OFI. So the AF methodology first has two steps, as all of the poverty measurement methodology. The first one is the identification, and the second one is the aggregation from the individual level to get a measure of poverty at the societal level. And the complexity or the difference between the multidimensional measure and the monetary one is on the fact that in the multidimensional cases you have a distribution of welfare that you want to take into account into your measure. So at the identification level, so then you have to define a deprivation profile for each of the person in your distribution using the deprivation statute on each of the dimensions, on each of the indicators that you're considering. For the global MPI, we have 3 dimensions: the health, education, and living standard. For health, we have 2 indicators: nutrition, where we have child nutrition and adult nutrition, child mortality, under 5 child mortality, year of schooling, the level of schooling complete by each member of the household, the school attendance, whether there is any child in school age who is not attending school, and a set of 6 living standard indicators: cooking, fuel, improved sanitation, and so on. I will not get into too much detail, but just to tell you there are 10 indicators, and for each of these 10 indicators we have a deprivation cutoff to first say if the person is deprived in the indicators or not. And from this deprivation profile, we get to identify if the person is multidimensionally poor or not poor using a poverty threshold. So in the case of global MPI, the poverty cutoff is 33%, which is more or less to say if the person is on average or equivalently deprived in one of the 3 dimensions. So the example of Natalie here, so she's deprived on the colored boxes. And so from this, we aggregate using the weights that we have on each indicators to get a deprivation score for the person, and we compare it to the poverty cutoff. And then we move to the aggregation step. So once we have the poverty status of the person to say if he's multidimensionally poor or not poor, then for the whole distribution we have this poverty status, and then we aggregate to get a measure of poverty at the country level or at the societal level that we are analyzing. And for this, the MPI as an index is a product of 2 aggregate measures, which is the headcount H times the intensity A. So first you want to take into account what is the relative number of poor people, but also to take into account how deeply or how poor these people are, because we're taking into account the gap between their deprivation level to the poverty threshold. So this is very, very briefly what is the global MPI and how we compute this number, and it's computed using different kind of data set, the three main international comparable data set, which are DHS, MIX, and PAFAM in some cases. These are the 2014 results, as I said, but the 2015 are already there, but they will be available just on 22nd of June. But what we have from last year, we've computed MPI for 108 countries, and this is 5.4 billion of people, and as the main result, we have 30% of these people who are multidimensionally poor, or said differently, 1.6 billion of people. This is at the very, very aggregate level. So we have also result by countries. So for example, for each country, we have also result, the subnational result by different region of the countries, by different ethnic groups, or by indicators and so on. So this is the case of Nigeria, where we have what is the level of MPI, the different component of MPI in Nigeria, and then you can do also some maps to get an idea of what's going on. We publish decomposition by indicators to know what are the censored, uncensored hit count for each of the indicators we have in the MPI. The decomposition by region. And also what we did last year was the analysis of changes over time, because for over the last couple of years now, for many countries we have different wave of data. So when we update the global MPI, we're able to also compare the changes in MPI for each of these countries. And we can do that using the MPI as an index, and we're doing that also by decomposing the MPI to do it for changes for the age, for changes for the age, for changes of what's happening on each of the indicators. So here are the global results for last year. We computed last year, we had changes over time for 34 countries. Here, for example, for each of the 4 different levels of the MPI corresponding to each country, we have how did they perform over the last couple of years. The poorer countries, which is Niger and Ethiopia here, they reduce MPI by minus 0.010, but the best performer are the countries which are down here, where you have Rwanda, Nepal, Tanzania, Uganda. And in poverty analysis literature also, this show kind of convergence in terms of poverty reduction, and it just makes sense. So the countries that start with a high level of MPI have more rooms or opportunities to reduce MPI more quickly. So this is a kind of good news. And we have also changes over time, where we can have this kind of graph where you can see how the country reduced intensity versus how it reduced the hit count. And again, here the top performance are the countries we had before, which is Rwanda, Nepal, Ghana, and Bolivia. We got also changes over time for different by indicators, and for the 34 countries analyzed, 10 of these countries reduced all the 10 MPI indicators, because some of the countries reduced just a set of indicators. And so the Rwanda, who is the best performer, reduced more all of the living condition indicators, in particular sanitation and water. And you can do more instead of just decomposing these changes by indicators. You can do this decomposition by indicators and also add subnational to know exactly for each of the subnational regions of the countries, how do they perform on a specific area or on a specific set of indicators. And this is what we have here for our other best performer, which is Nepal. So this is very briefly the kind of analysis, the kind of result that we update every year when news data are available, and we invite all of you to be posted on 22nd. I am not sure, but I think it's podcasted to be followed online and to download everything we will get from this year. I will finish to present you very briefly like the value added of all of these MPI analysis and measure. So the mismatch between MPI and income analysis. So here are the level of MPI and heat count and $1.25 a day. So you can see that for the different countries, the drought, which is the level, the head count of $1.25 a day, poverty is different from the level of MPI. This is at aggregate level, but even if you want to look on at the micro level, so first the poverty rate are different, but also the people who are poor using income measure are different from the people who are poor using MPI measures. So to tackle really poverty in a more comprehensive way, we need to follow the two. So this was in absolute term, but you also have another mismatch even on relative in terms of dynamics. So changes on MPI is different on changes on income poverty. The reason is also very simple, because the kind of policy that reduce income poverty are different from the kind of policy that reduce MPI. And very quickly, and then I will leave Professor Foster, is to say also we compute also from last year a more deeper like poverty or MPI, which is destitution, which gives a kind of severe poverty by considering deeper deprivation cutoff. So for example, instead of saying a household is deprived in child mortality, it has one children who die. We now consider a household to be deprived if it's deprived at least if it's lost at least 2 children. So this is also, say again, is very flexible. So depending on the kind of specific poverty you want to measure, you can tailor the measure and change the cutoff. And I will stop here, and I invite you again to be posted on 22nd and to get the 2015 result.
Great. Now, that's the 22nd. On that same day, we'll be releasing the book. Yes, long-awaited book from the many summer courses that we've been having over the years and other training sessions. The compendium of all the results that we've learned over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Oxford University Press. So be on the lookout on this 22nd for the official release of the book. And I just have 2 ways of describing it. It's a comprehensive survey of methods used for measuring multidimensional poverty. That's pretty obvious. And illustrates state-of-the-art quantitative techniques used in multidimensional poverty studies. And here's the outline of the book, the chapters. Now that's pretty boring to look at a list of chapters, isn't it? So I won't approach it that way. Instead, I want to ask you a question. Suppose that you are trying to prepare your own multidimensional poverty measure, and you're saying to your staff, now, go and learn about all different technologies that are out there, the different methodologies for measuring multidimensional poverty. Where would you go? Well, you could go right to chapter 2 in the book, and there you'd learn all about the dashboard approach, the composite indicators, indices, Venn diagrams, dominance approaches, fuzzy sets approach, axiomatic approach, statistical approach. It's all there in one place for you to have at your fingertips. Now suppose you had the question, oh my goodness, how am I going to choose the dimensions, the indicators, the cutoffs? How am I going to calibrate my multidimensional poverty indicator? Well, right there in chapter 6 is a discussion of this. It is all the different considerations. How would you choose these different parts of the measure? Well, it depends on what you're going to use the measure for goodness sake. You know, what is out there? What is feasible? What data are available? What strength do the data have with them? How could they be combined in an appropriate way? How well could they be communicated? And how legitimate are they? So, you see, this is all described in Chapter 6, the kind of very practical methodology of concocting your measure so as to achieve your policy results. How sensitive are the results to the calibration that you've just put together? It could be that they're very sensitive, they could be not sensitive at all, therefore they could be robust. Chapter 8. In Chapter 8, robustness tests, discussing dominance and rank robustness tests as you change one or the other of the parameters to see how rapidly things change. And hence also the statistical inference associated with that, so you know what's happening. Now, if you have, what about analysis over time? You'd like to conduct analysis over several periods of time. A whole chapter on dynamic analysis, both in terms of cross-sections and in terms of panels. All there in Chapter 9. Finally, suppose that you wanted to conduct econometric analysis with what you have. Well, there in Chapter 10, all kinds of models with which you can then conduct micro and macro regression analysis, determinants of poverty at the household level and at the country level. All there in this book. Get it at your local bookstore soon. Thank you very much.